I thought that I was already in sync with you guys. Uh, so, okay, let me start again. I was unaware that my microphone was on mute. So let me again start from scratch again. So let me share my screen parallelly. This is awesome. So I was actually discussing from the past 10 minutes. I was just talking on, and I was unaware that you are not able to listen to me. Okay. Okay, just now I found it. Okay, so we had a discussion in the last week about Jenkins, right? So we will continue to discuss again on Jenkins so that we will when we discuss it again, we will feel comfortable about the Jenkins technologies. So okay, so just keep in mind Jenkins is a open source tool, and it is actually meant for CI/CD pipeline. It is open source tool which is completely made up of Java. Okay, so people can, because it's open source, we are always free to actually use it for a learning purpose, and you use your learnings in your industries, right? So whoever is a DevOps engineer, he should be able to use Jenkins. He should be knowing the main functionalities of or what are the main features that Jenkins provides, how it is helping us in performing the CI/CD pipeline, right? So that's the basic idea. So enough of theory. So we need to highlight few things that Jenkins provide. Let me just note down in a big page, presentation page. I think that will be good. Like just remember, like instead of writing the whole theory, just remember few things which Jenkins provides. When it comes to Jenkins, you have to remember few main functionalities of Jenkins, how it works, right? Um, like let me pages. I think let me try to open pages. Okay, okay. So Jenkins is a CI/CD tool. Jenkins is a CI/CD tool. Um, can I zoom it to more? Okay. Let me increase the font. How to increase the font? Okay. Okay. So just highlight. Always remember, like from there you can actually get deeper and deeper. Tool. It's open source. So open source. It is open source, and it is completely written in Java. Okay. So these are the few basic things about Jenkins that we have already discussed in the last session. I'm just highlighting what uh, them again so that we can actually recollect. Okay. So when it comes to Jenkins, the power of Jenkins is lies in the plugins. So in Jenkins, everything is plugins. So plugins. So whenever you install a Jenkins, it actually installs the core platform for Jenkins. That's it. And whatever add-ons you need, you have to install plugins. So as soon as you install, there is a dashboard comes up, and it recommends to install some plugins which are like core, which by default are used in CI/CD pipeline and in daily activities of Jenkins. So everything is Jenkins everything is plugins in Jenkins. Just keep that in mind. Okay, and when so there is a one of the main powerful, like few of the powerful plugins you can actually remember is like Blue Ocean. Blue Ocean is one of the powerful plugins which is actually provides you a rich UI experience. Okay, so other than that, there are other few plugins like Git plugin. Git plugin is important, and manage nodes. If you have multiple nodes, how do you manage the nodes? So that also comes manage nodes. Mm. So yeah, so these are the few examples of plugins that in Jenkins. So when it comes to Jenkins, always remember that Jenkins works on lot of plugins. Uh,
What Duocean does?
Yeah, so basically Jenkins was the open source code, and its UI experience. Many people were not happy with the UI experience, so someone came up with a rich UI experience rich UI experience where you can actually create pipeline in a very user friendly way. So they can actually they will be provided a different kind of UI, different pages where you can actually understand what you are doing. So that is what Blue Ocean is. You can actually download it from. It is also open source. You can just download it by going to manage plugins. Probably, if I have time, I can just quickly show you that also. I'll show you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So everything is plugin, just remember. And when it comes to Jenkins, so everything can be managed from one particular part, which is called manage plugins, manage Jenkins. So everything can be done using this particular left hand navigation button. There is a button called manage Jenkins. Everything comes from there. Okay. And when you want to create a project, you have to create via a button called new. So there is a new item. So if you want to create a project, whether can be a project can be of different types. Okay. Project can be of uh, freestyle freestyle project, or a pipeline project. So pipeline project. Again, this pipeline project is again a plugin. So comes as a recommended set of plugins when you actually first time install plugins. Okay. So pipeline projects, and there are a few others. So when you want to just remember these two things. Okay, so when you want to create a project of your own in Jenkins, you have to click on this particular button, new item. When you want to manage Jenkins, you have to click on this particular button, manage Jenkins. Okay, so we have already discussed this, and so I'm just highlighting it this way. So you remember these basics things, and from there you can go deeper and deeper. What you can do from managing Jenkins. In managing Jenkins, what are the things that you can do? In the new items, how are you going to create a project? How do you create a freestyle project? How do you create a pipeline project? How do you integrate Git into? How do you integrate Git Git projects? Um, Git projects. In CI/CD pipeline, in the CI/CD pipeline. I assume you know that. I will just explain you again what it means by integrating Git projects in CI/CD pipeline. There are a few other things also you can do. You can actually write there is something called, you have to remember, there is something called the Jenkins jobs. Okay, so these all are these projects are run as a jobs actually. So you can remember that Jenkins jobs um, is one important term, right? When it comes to Jenkins, so everything can be run as a job, which actually it can be triggered in different ways. So it can be triggered. Jenkins jobs can be triggered, can be scheduled. It can be scheduled or scheduled for every minute, every hour, every day, so on. It can be scheduled or it can be built explicitly. So there is a command called build now. Using that, you can actually build explicitly. So this is one and the one things that you can do. These are two. So when it comes to Jenkins jobs, you can see the output result of the Jenkins jobs in the dashboard. In the Jenkins jobs itself, you can see the results of it and so on. So these are, just remember this highlight, and I will actually quickly go through each and every things that I have discussed right now here. So here, let's come back to this place. This is Jenkins dashboard. We have already visited in the last session of after installation. What is the experience? You will be asked for the initial admin initial admin password, initial admin password you'll be asked, and you need to enter, a first user name. I have already entered it, so I have created an admin user and password. So I'm just logging into the dashboard. So this is how the Jenkins dashboard looks like. It looks very simple, but it has evolved, and it has a very good ecosystem, and a lot of plugins are there in it. So as I have mentioned, so this is what new item is of your interest in Jenkins. When it comes to that, there is a new item here, that's a chart which I have already discussed. Manage Jenkins Jenkins is another thing that is of your interest. Last week, if you remember, we actually did role-based RBAC, role-based assignments for projects, right? We have discussed that. So that we can actually do. So that's again a plugin. So new item, this is one sample of a new item. By clicking on new item, I created a specific project. So we can just create, like clicking on new item, you can actually create, as I already discussed in the pages. We can create a freestyle project, pipeline project. There is not much difference between these and do this freestyle project and pipeline project. It's all about the way multi-branch projects. So the basic core concepts are both are same, but the way they are actually structured are different. Like when it comes to freestyle project, there is no specific pattern you need to follow. You can actually just write a shell script as a part of build of as a part of this project. When it comes to freestyle project, or you can actually write a Python script also. So choice is yours. So let me say I will create a freestyle project, my freestyle project. So I just create a my style project and click on OK. So here you are actually um, create your own project specific settings. Whether you want to create a GitHub project, then because GitHub is most commonly used, so there is a special checkbox for GitHub project. So you can actually enter your GitHub project URL here, which will be used to clone the repository. Jenkins will automatically clone the repository from this from the project URL. Okay. Uh, and so after the project creation, you can say how are you going to trigger this particular project. So you want to trigger it periodically, or you can actually trigger via poll SCM, like for when it comes to Git, you want to have a polling mechanism, or when it comes to you want a push mechanism, then there this Git. Okay, let me explain you more clearly what these two things actually means. So if you want github.com, that means the GitHub to actually um, trigger an event to Jenkins. So send an event status to Jenkins. Then this is what we use: GitHub hook trigger. That's what we actually use. If let's suppose something happened, like in the GitHub, some developer actually or a tester actually pushed the code, push the code in github.com, and that needs to be informed to our Jenkins URL. So this is the way it works. So that kind of configuration, if you want, then you have to check box this thing. And already I have discussed in the previous session, but though it doesn't look for more clarity, I will explain it again. So what I said is, like, you want to trigger a build in Jenkins. This particular my style field project should be triggered whenever any Git event happens. Then you go for this option. Okay. So for this, GitHub should be able to give that information to you, right? So that you do it via via github.com. Go to log into your github.com. Okay. Go to your github.com. So I remember our repository is something called my Python project. Maybe this is a project. I think I already configured in the last session. So you have to go to the settings. In the settings, we have something called good web hooks. Okay. So webhooks. So last session I already explained this to you. So remember, this is the basic idea, right? You provide, this is our Jenkins URL. Yeah. So this is our Jenkins URL. Remember? So this is our Jenkins URL. So GitHub somehow has to inform our Jenkins. Our Jenkins should be informed, saying that okay, some commit has happened, some push has happened in the GitHub, and I am informing you that you can start any projects that you want to run whenever a GitHub push happens. So that way, if you want to make it working, you need to add a webhook. So this is how you add a webhook. So it is asking for the password. Okay, so now, so this is what I have assigned, but this is not our Jenkins URL. Maybe you have to assign your appropriate IP address. So last week, which I have rolled a EC2 instance. That's IP address was this one, but I can actually give this IP address. This IP address is what 13.127.252.6. This one I have to assign it. So you just need to assign this particular hook. Okay. This is the webhook. This is exactly what we want actually. The IP address with port 8080, which is our Jenkins URL. This is our Jenkins IP address, right? So that is what you have to inform. And this is the constant always GitHub dash webhook. So by saying this, and you have to say that, okay, I want to trigger a event, uh, trigger pull request whenever there is any pull request happening, whenever there is push happening, git push, whenever happens to this particular project repository Python web app, then I will inform the Jenkins server, which is running in this particular URL. Okay, so that's what it says. So you just save it. Okay, once you save that, that means that whenever any push happens, you automatically will inform Jenkins that you need to start a trigger. So when this happens, you just need to mention the project URL here also. So remember the project URL, copy this, and you have to remember the project URL like this. Okay, and source code management is Git, and you mentioned the GitHub repository. Because it is it is a public repository. So because it is a public repository, you need not have any credentials. There is no requirement of credentials. But if you want to have credentials, there is a simple way. I can explain you here. But keep in mind that if it is a public repository, that means you don't need any credentials to happen. So whenever a push happens, automatically this repository build process will start. And what is the build steps that you need to follow, that you can actually write it by writing a build steps. So in build steps, you can just write a simple shell script, or you can write a Windows batch command, invoke, and you want to invoke Gradle script. You have multiple options, right? So you can explore on your need basis what kind of build step you want to invoke, right? So you can write a simple shell script. So for the demo purpose, I can just say that hello build started. There was a git push from so and so Python web app. Okay, so this is what it will get executed. So you can write any set of commands like deploy commands, all the steps you can actually do. So so these are the basic core steps that you need to remember if you want to trigger a build whenever any whenever you want to you want to invoke a Jenkins scripts whenever a git push happens. So these are the steps you need to follow. Okay, so, that's it. So that's it. If you want, so you have created your project, and this project is this. And suppose I have already mentioned you that we can actually trigger it by explicitly, or you can make it scheduled also, right? So I have explained you the scheduled thing. Whenever a git push has happens via webhooks, it will actually push, right? So instead, if you want to explicitly build it, there is also a way. So here you have this option called build now. You can just go to click on this particular button, build now, and it will build it for you. So here is what happens when you actually click on build now. So you can see the build now steps, what has happened by clicking on the console output. And of course, something wrong has happened. Okay. So, I think I have configured it for, yeah, so these are the steps. I have actually configured it for a slave. So looks like I have configured it for a slave. I can remove that option where the projects can run.
Anil,
Yep.
yeah. So any application, if we give the repository URL in this Jenkins, it will build, correct?
Huh.
So whatever, whether it is React.js or whether it is .NET or whether it is, uh, uh,
Yeah.
I mean, if it
So,
is,
yeah. So if it is React.js, you have to write the scripts belonging to build process, which is specific to React.js, right? If it is a .NET project, you have to write a script which is related to .NET project build process. So here it is a command shell script, but if it is a React project, then suppose React project generally works like with npm. So you can just write npm build is what the command is for React.js. You have to write these particular commands in your shell script. Actually, npm command works as a part of shell script. For that, your Jenkins should be able to run npm commands, right? So to make the npm commands run, you should be able to install. You should be installing npm in this particular machine. This particular machine 13 dot 127.256 252.6. This is what you have to. You should be able to run that thing, right? So in order to make the Git to run, you should also install GitHub Git Git software, and also you should be able to install GitHub plugin. So, but GitHub plugin comes as a default uh, as a part of Jenkins managed plugins. So you can go to the plugins and you can verify that GitHub is already there. So you can see that installed projects in the install list. You should be having the plugins, right? So you can see that already the GitHub plugins are already there. Okay, the GitHub source plugin is already there. These are all the list of all plugins already there. You can just enable them also because it is already enabled here. This is plugin, so by default it is not enabled. So if you want to install more plugins, you can go and click on in available, and you can install those plugins. For npm, uh, on need basis, if you want to run npm specific which requires a plugin, you can probably, I haven't tried it, but you can search for something for npm plugins. So this is on plugin. So you can just go and install the plugins here. For example,
okay. So based on that command which we are giving, so it will identify the plugins, then it will build, correct? No?
yes, yeah. So
So that
so
plugin we need to install. So
plugins
I
we
mean,
need to install
before,
means like, yeah. So npm, right? Npm is a command, right? Npm command should be able to run, right? So
yeah,
by
that is
default,
for React.js.
hmm. So
So
npm Jenkins by default doesn't know what is npm. So you should be able to install the plugin. So Maven also, Jenkins doesn't know what is Maven. So you should be able to install a Maven plugin. So few plugins which are most commonly used are already there in this particular list. So these are all installed plugins. So if you want to run your specific software commands, then you have to install those software plugins. Okay.
okay, thanks.
Yeah. So you see this Git plugin. You have, we remember email extension plugin is already there. And last weekend we wanted role based assignment, right? So that is not there. So we last time we actually installed a role based assignment. We just click on role, and we install this particular plugin, role based authority strategy. And after installation of each plugin, will be some change in the UI saying that this plugin is available to you. For example, this role based authority strategy, if you go to manage plugins here, you will be seeing a separate new button for managing the roles. For managing roles, you should be able to see last week actually we actually saw that particular demo. You can actually revisit the video session. Okay. So parallelly, as we are in the managed plugins, we can actually say that so there was a question about Blue Ocean, right? So Blue Ocean, we can actually search for Blue Ocean. You can actually try that. So go to manage plugins here. You can search for Blue Ocean. So it is the top most commonly used plugin. Okay. Okay. So I think I already clicked on that particular plugin. Yeah. So you can actually go and click on this particular plugin and install it. Where is it? Yeah, so this is what the Blue Ocean plugin is. I think something got triggered. So this after I will show you afterwards. So after I do the basic sanity discussion of the of our Jenkins plugin. Yep. So we have gone through the basics of how to trigger a GitHub repository, right? Um, so now um, now what shall we discuss? So, so this is manage credentials plugin. So there are a lot of plugins here. Manage credentials plugin is there. Manage users plugin is there. Um, so global configure global security plugin. So we can actually go and play with all of them. And last weekend we actually used manage users plugin. We created users, right? So here you can actually create more users. Like last time, if you remember, we have created different users. Dev user like Anil Dev. We created Anil Dev user. We assigned a password to him. Create user. Uh, Username. Okay. Username maybe like I can just do Anil Dev only. And full name is Anil Dev. Let me put it in the. So you can create users using user plugin. And last week I have created RBAC. So again to recollect, I can just go and create RBAC plugin. So go to manage plugins and role role based and click on here and install without restart. It will go and install the role based authorization strategy. So this will actually give you a new plugin. It will give you a new plugin that we have already discussed in the last session. Yeah. So once this is installed, you can actually restart your Jenkins instance by clicking on restart Jenkins without when install is complete. So you click on this, then this is the way how you restart your Jenkins. You just click on this particular checkbox and it will restart the Jenkins server. And once the Jenkins server is restarted, it the new plugins that you have installed will become active and you can use them. Okay. So now I have actually installed a role-based authorization, which I already have discussed in the last weekend. Now I have actually again installed the RBSE role, RBSE role plugin. So it will take some time. Yeah. So the restart has happened. I again log in here. So once I log in, I can actually verify that because of installation of RBSE plugin, I should be able to see something new here, right? So global security. So if you remember authorization, because of the new plugin, this is the new tab that came to picture, role-based strategy. Role-based strategy comes into picture. You just enable it, apply and save. So this is a specific flow that you follow. Now you see this is the new tab which was not there before. It came as a part of installation of the RBSE plugin. After installing RBSE plugin, this is what came, And to enable this plugin, you went to global configuration security and you change the authorization settings to role-based strategy. Suppose if you again go back and check this and save it, then you see that particular button is gone. So this is one thing. This is specific learnings that is specific to how to use RBAC plugin. Only for RBAC plugin, this is the way. For the other plugins, there will be other steps that you need to learn and follow. Okay. So RBAC plugin last weekend already discussed it. So I just wanted to reiterate so that it will be easier for you to understand what are the steps. So if you remember, we have manage roles, assign roles, which comes as a part of RBAC plugin. You can actually add manage roles, right? So you can create a new role also here, roles to add. Um, so you can just add a new role. You create a role called employee and you just add it. So this is the new role you added, which is specifically global. This is a global role. But if you want to add a role specific to a project, then here project means item. If you remember, we have new item, which is basically project, whether it's pipeline project, freestyle project. So this is also item means like it is a project specific role. So you say that you can actually create a role specific to a project. You can create a specific project for developers. For testers, you can create a separate role, right? So dev role pattern. If you remember last time we had some syntax problems. So I remember that syntax now. So we have to. So this is it gives us the ability to enter a regular expression. So this actually means that all projects which are actually starting with dev. So all projects starting with dev will be assigned to the role dev, right? So that is what it actually means, right? So dev project, test project, you can actually start test project. Okay. So I'm actually recollecting what we have discussed in the last session. Okay. So we can actually manage role based projects actually. Now suppose we want to create a project. If you want to create a project, if you want to assign it to only um, if you want to only dev projects to be visible to developers only, then you can actually say that the project will starting with the dev will be visible to only dev specific roles, right? So this project will be visible to only developers. And similarly for testers, you create a test project, and this project will be sorry, I created a new view. This project will be visible only to testers. So that's what the basic idea is, right? So once you do that, you can make sure that this dev project will be visible to dev projects and test projects will be visible to test projects. That's how you can actually go, and you can actually go click on manage and assign roles, and you specify the roles. You can specify the roles here. Okay, so yeah, I didn't save it. I didn't apply save it. So you can actually say that employees of read only, and I create a project which has pattern of dev.star and add it and test project test role. I have to create role which is having a pattern of test.star, add it. That's it. Now last time I forgot to click on this apply and save. Now I have roles there here. My roles are already there. And if you remember, I will give all permissions to testers for a test specific project. And developers will get all permissions to projects which are starting with dev. That's what we did. Okay. Now apply, save. Now I'll assign this project. So I'll say that assign projects, users, user with name dev. Okay, I have added two global roles and he is of type employee and test. I didn't create a test user, right? I only created dev user. So let me go and create a test user also. I'm just reiterating what we have done in the last week. So to create a user, you have to go to user plugin, right? Manage users plugin. So here you can go and you can actually go and go on manage users plugin. So here I have only created dev project, dev user. I can actually create another user called test, whose user name is test. Okay. So now again, go back to our roles, manage use Jenkins, go back to our configure manage roles. Here you can assign roles. You have actually item specific roles. You can actually assign uh, and you can say dev and you can add test. Okay. So dev will be having dev roles, test will be having test roles, and you're good, right? So this is how we assign roles to. Then we can actually click on I think we can actually click on the manage roles and see what. So if you click on this particular dev, you can see that only dev project is visible under for this role. And if you click on test, you can see that only test project is visible on this role. It is actually saying that under this role, only test project is visible. Under this dev role, only dev projects are visible. That's what you are able to see that, right? So if I log out, I essentially as from admin, now I will log in as dev. So I am able to see only dev project, right? So this is how the dev uh, RBSE will work. Suppose I log out and I log in as test. I log in as test. And you can actually see that you are logged in as test. So you can see only test projects, right? But if you want to see all, you can actually log in. Always log in as an admin. And when you are admin, you can see dev projects, test projects, and all other projects, also my freestyle project and project projects. So all these projects you can actually see. Okay, yeah. So so let's try to debug this problem. This project is failed, and specifically it says that I'm not able to see something. It is able to. This is I was not expecting. So let me again explain what I'm trying to do. So I have created a freestyle project before you itself now only, and I see that I triggered a build and it failed somehow. So in order to generally whenever a project fails, you can how do you generally debug? That's what I am trying to explain. So this is my freestyle project which was actually configured to actually pull a GitHub repository. And if you want to see the log errors of it and so on, you can actually go to that particular job, which is this is job number 1. So click on this particular job number 1. There you can go to there is some button called console output. You can go to the console output. There you can actually start your debugging. Okay, so this is how you can actually debug. Okay, so this says that it is actually trying to execute. Um, it is trying to execute this particular command, what you have mentioned, build steps that you have mentioned. It is trying to execute in slave 1. Remote, it is trying to build on slave 1. Okay. So because I have configured somewhere to run it on slave 1, it is trying to run on slave 1 instead of running in the master itself. Okay. So so that's another topic which we can actually discuss how master and slave configuration works, how we can actually assign another node as slaves to our master. So this particular Jenkins dashboard runs as a part of as a master, and generally if there are lots of projects to be run, then you add more and more nodes, which can be marked as slaves, right? So I think I already created a slave for it. And this is trying to run under that particular slave. So if you want to see what nodes are being added, you can go to manage Jenkins, and there's a specific plugin called manage nodes here. So here I have already added a slave. Okay, I will go through the steps how to add a particular slave to you. Okay, so this is what I have added for now. Slave, I have added a slave, and this is slave uh, is taking the task whatever projects I am assigning. Okay, so what is a slave, and how to add a particular slave? If you so we have to follow the some um, diagram so that you can able to understand what is the master slave setup. So here we have Jenkins master server, and we have multiple slaves in it. So the basic idea of master slave architecture is master. We assign particular project. We create from projects, and we say that we can few of the tasks we will try to assign it to a slave. The slave can be will be a different node which is tied up with the master, and master has a way to assign that particular task to a particular slave. So in this particular diagram, we have three slaves, and one is of type Windows, one can be of type Linux, and one can be of type Debian. And master will actually assign the task to um, um, the uh, specific node machine. So the steps to actually add the slave are pretty much uh, very much um, well given in our slides actually. So you can actually follow the steps in our slides and actually add a particular new slave to our master. So this is what um, the steps is like. So these are the steps actually how to add a particular slave to a Jenkins master. Okay, so these are the steps we need to follow. So if you go here, so this particular blob gives us the exact steps of how to add a Jenkins master, how to add a Jenkins slave to a master. So these are the steps that we need to follow. And I have followed these steps to add a particular slave here. I have in my AWS instance, I already have few machines, right? I already have few machines, and I have made one of the machine as a slave to our master. So that's what I did actually. So so how to create a slave? I'll explain you step by step. So this is interesting. Okay. So instead of using a predefined configuration here, I will explain you step by step how to add a specific slave to a master. How to add a specific slave to a master. Okay. So let me do step by step. So he
Anil,
yep,
have, sorry to interrupt. I have one
yep.
query here. So here, master and slave, what is the purpose of that? I mean, it's like we have prod and DR, right? When we are
Mhm.
having server production
Ah,
and disaster recovery server, like that, it is master and slave, or for what purpose we want to make it like that first?
yes. So for example, let's say you have a C# application. Okay.
Okay.
And C# application only runs on Windows, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you
Yeah.
want to build, what are the build commands to run a C# application? MS build, right? MS build, and some attributes to MS build and the project name. That's what you give, and it actually builds the C# application. And finally, it gives the build will give you a debug executable, maybe like for example, right? And that
Yes.
only
Yes.
works on Windows. That will MS build might not be running on. It's not a Linux command, right? MS build generally, mostly it
Mm-hmm.
is Windows only, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have installed your Jenkins in a Linux machine. In this particular case, I have created a Jenkins server here. So this is a Jenkins dashboard, which is typically running on a CentOS machine. So in CentOS machine, I cannot run MS build, right? You
Okay.
can actually say you can type the commands, but the commands will not work. MS builds commands will not work at all. So what you do is like you create a new Windows machine in EC2. You can actually create a EC2 Windows machine, right? So go and create a EC2 machine, launch instance, my Windows machine, and um, here you can search for Windows operating system, like Windows 10. I hope there should be some. No. Okay. Okay, it's there. Something is there. Yeah. Okay. Now you can create your own Windows machine. Okay, like this. Some
Okay.
Microsoft Windows 10 Pro. You created a Windows machine. So this is a different machine. Okay. And you can run your MS build inside this machine. You know that. You will install MS build specific binaries, .NET framework, all those things you
Mm-hmm.
can actually install in this particular machine. Definitely, right? So
Okay.
you configure that particular machine to run MS build. And after you configure that machine, you will tie your Jenkins master. This is your Jenkins master to that particular Windows machine. You will tie both of them. And that will be a slave for you. That Windows machine will be a slave for you. And that is what the diagram actually says, explains to you. So,
Oh,
so
it
here,
means you mean to say Jenkins plugin is kind of slave like that. Where it is installed, that is a master. You mean to say
yes, yes.
Windows
So
or
this,
whether it is Linux or
yes. So your master is a particular machine only, but it is a CentOS machine, right? In my case.
oh, it's like a server. Can we say that is like a server? Jenkins is like a server.
Yeah,
Uh, so Windows or Linux, whatever it is, that is like a client. We say like that?
no, no. So I think the better term is master and slave only here. So
Okay, okay,
Jenkins master is running here. Jenkins master server by default there will be only one master server in Jenkins, and by default wherever you install Jenkins, that itself will become Jenkins master. And if you want to take help of machines which cannot be run by the master, ideally you actually spin up a new machine which that with those configuration, and you actually delegate the task to that particular machine. In our case, you cannot run a particular MS build specific commands in the master. You cannot run because it is a CentOS machine. So you actually create a Windows machine which in Jenkins words is a Jenkins slave, and you actually assign the task to the Jenkins slave. So that's what you're doing.
okay.
Okay, I will explain you now how we do that. I will explain you end to end. I will explain it to you so that it is very clear to you now. Okay, so
Okay, so
let me.
instead of a VM, can we use like this for infrastructure kind of thing? For the
Uh,
infrastructure kind of thing, can we use like this?
VM interest. I didn't get the question actually.
Instead of a VM,
Uh-huh.
so as you said, like we are using Windows as a slave like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we need to install 10 and all, Windows 10 and all.
Yeah, because there is no other way, right? MS Build only runs on Windows, so
Mm-hmm.
definitely you need a Windows machine, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So you can't. So there is no other way other than. So if you want to run MS build specific, which is specific to Windows OS commands, which are specific to Windows machine or Windows PowerShell specific scripts you need to run, you cannot run on master machine. You cannot run on
Okay.
master machine because PowerShell by default comes in Windows only, right? .NET
Okay.
framework, all those things by default are in Windows only. So if you want to run any commands which are specific to .NET framework or specific which is specific related to C Sharp or Visual Studio, that you can run in only Windows only, right? And for example, if you want to run brew commands, brew, homebrew, these commands, if you want to run, you can actually run on only Mac machines. You cannot run in CentOS machine. If you want to run Debian specific commands, for example, Debian commands, what are there? They are apt install, apt update, apt commands. So those
Okay.
commands they will not run on CentOS machines. They can run only on Ubuntu machines, which are Debian specific, right? So you by default you cannot run. So you have your if your laptop is having Windows, it can run only Windows specific commands. If your laptop is having CentOS, it can run only CentOS specific commands. The same rule is there for Jenkins also. So Jenkins, right? Jenkins is also running on some machine only, right? It is also running on some machine. So if you run
Yeah.
Jenkins, so if you run Jenkins on CentOS machine, it can run all commands which are compatible with CentOS machines only, right? So if you want to run Windows machine, then how if you are unable to run any Windows machine, and if Jenkins doesn't provide you a way, then there is no use of Jenkins. So Jenkins claims that it is a open source and it can build any kind of project, whether it is Python, whether it is C sharp, whether it's so it actually says that, right? How does it make it working? Even though Jenkins master is working is running on only one particular operating system, it actually runs cross-platform. It actually enables CI/CD pipeline for all kind of projects, whether it is a Windows-specific platform-specific application project, or whether it is Debian project. It runs any kind of projects. It claims that, and that happens only because of this master-slave architecture. Okay, so I will explain you.
Okay.
So I think so you got the concept, right? Basic theory, how it works, right? So we will see this particular theory in practical now, how to make it working, like how master actually delegates the task to slave. We'll go step by step. So I think that should be way. I already did that. I will delete that. That should be way to delete it, right? Uh, should be manage loads. Okay, so I say disconnect. Disconnect is working. Okay, so disconnect. I removed that. I removed the nodes. So again, you can actually go manage Jenkins here, manage Jenkins, and you want to add a particular node. You go to this go to this node, and why it is still there? I said to disconnect. Right? Oh, after disconnect, I need to delete it. Hmm, delete agent. Okay, there is a something called delete cell. Yeah, I deleted it. So I am completely fresh now. Now let me see. I'm just doing something else. Okay, so by default it actually took it from. So you remember this first build that we had done? It was trying to build it in slave, and it somehow failed. But once I executed it in, I deleted the project, it had no other slave. It actually built it in the server itself, and it got successful. You can see that console output here. Now it is actually building in the same machine itself. And the project actually we did is we had a simple shell script command, right? So the shell script command was to just echo hello build started, and it just echoed this, and there was a git push in Python web app. That's what it actually just printed. So that's how it actually worked, this way. Now let's focus on how to what are the steps involved to add a particular slave. So imagine like you cannot run that project. Your project is a completely a Windows specific project or some other project which you can't run in this particular master, right? So you need to add a particular node, new node. So to add a particular new node, you need to follow some steps. Okay. So so this is the master slave configuration steps, right? So you have to create a new node. In our case, it is EC2 instance. You just go and create an EC2 instance. We can actually create any kind of instance for demo purpose. I am again opting for to install a Jenkins specific instance only. Okay, sorry, CentOS specific instance only. So these are the steps we need to follow to create a slave and attach it to master. So first we need to go and create a EC2 instance virtual machine. We'll create a new virtual machine, and we will actually install few Java software for now for just demo purpose. It is actually not necessary, but we'll just for demo purpose we will install Java, and we will add or commands which are required to connect that slave to the master. So, how do we connect? How do actually we connect two machines? we do it via SSH, right? SSH, like SSH is a tool that is used to connect uh, from one machine to other machine, right? So for example, you have EC2 instance. How do you connect to this particular EC2 instance? For example, this machine I have, I want to connect to this machine. You do SSH to that particular machine, right? And you just do it via running the command in the terminal. In the terminal, you just follow. You just have to run this particular command. You should make sure that your PM file is available uh, in your machine, in your local machine. So I remember my PM file is there in downloads, and it is basically a which user. This is basically a CentOS user. It is a CentOS user. So I am able to connect to CentOS user, right? So SSH, using SSH, I think you are all aware of it, but I'm just iterating, saying that if you want to connect from one machine to another machine, you use SSH. So this is the core fundamental thing everyone should actually remember. To connect to a machine, you should be able to use SSH, right? So uh, Jenkins also uses SSH to connect from master to slave. So what happens here? So to connect to particular machine in EC2, I am getting the EC2 machine name, all those things. I am getting the information here. So the EC2 machine name is this one, right? And the credentials is there in this particular PM file. I hope you all know about what is PM file. I have already explained you about the PM file. How do we get the PM file when you actually create instance? I already explained it to you. So those that PM file I have used to connect to that particular machine by a simple command ssh -i that PM file location and the machine IP address. So this is how I actually connected manually. Similarly, Jenkins uh, in our in this particular slide, if you can imagine, a master wants to connect to slave. It should be able to connect to slave via SSH, right? So in order to connect to slave via SSH, we need to via programmatically it should be able to connect. So we need to be able to form a connection. We need to make sure that this private key, SSH private key are available in the slave machine and are accessible to the master so that it can actually connect internally and execute those commands. So those are the steps that we need to follow, right? So always remember, Jenkins actually runs as a user called Jenkins. Whenever you install Jenkins in master, whatever build actually you say by default, it runs under the username Jenkins. Okay, so imagine Jenkins is a new user that you have created. Like Anil, but I am a user, I am a human user. Similarly, Jenkins is a programmatic user, which actually runs all the Jenkins jobs, Jenkins Jenkins builds and all those things. It actually runs. So imagine Jenkins is already a user which is created as a part of installation, and this particular Jenkins user should be able to connect to the remote slave. Okay, so um, so we need to give some privileges to the Jenkins user to be able to connect to the slave. To do this, we need to follow these steps. Okay. Now we will create a new machine. From scratch. Let's start to create a new slave. So I just go and create a slave. So I will say uh, my slave. I will give the name my slave to it. Okay, and I will create a CentOS machine only. I am creating a slave. Okay, remember. So I am creating a slave here. I am creating a CentOS 8 machine specific slave. My target is to actually connect master to the slave. Now I have created this slave. I have chosen the slave. Now because I am using Jenkins here, so I can use the same Jenkins. You can create a new key value pair, or you can use the existing key value pair also. So I will use the existing key value pair on the Jenkins, which I already have downloaded. So I have already downloaded the Jenkins PM file in my local machine. I have that PM file here in my downloads. I have my Jenkins PM file. which looks something like this. Jenkins.pm. See? So I already downloaded this Jenkins PM. I'm using this particular Jenkins PM when I'm connecting to any EC2 instances. So I'm using the same command SSH downloads PM Jenkins PM and that machine name. So which is there in my download machine. I can actually copy this particular PM file from the downloads and actually copy and paste it in my home folder. So that now I have my PM file here. Jenkins PM should be there here. So I have Jenkins PM here only. So I can actually connect instead of looking from the downloads folder, I can just connect it to my machine here. Or let it disconnect. Okay. Okay. So I have Jenkins PM already there in my local machine, right? You remember that, right? So I can use the same Jenkins PM key identifier when I actually create a new instance. Now I'm trying to create a new slave instance, which is called my slave, and its operating system is CentOS machine, which is of T2 Micro, and I'm using the key value pair Jenkins to spin up an instance. And remember, Jenkins always runs on port number 8080, so it is safe to actually create a new security port inbound rules 8080 to be able to connect to the Jenkins slave machine, right? So that you can do later also. So for now, I'll actually launch the instance. I'm just creating one number of instance one, and I'm just launching the instance. It will actually create a new instance called my slave. So it will take just a few seconds to launch instance. So launch instance has already launched. Now go to this particular instance, my slave. So this is ready now. It is in pending state. In few seconds, it will become ready. So I want it to work as a slave to my master. My master is this one, the Bastion, with which I have given the name Bastion. I am trying to create a slave called my slave. Okay. I am just creating, it's just nothing but creating a new VM machine. And I should be able to connect to that machine by doing some SSH tricks. Creating SSH key, connecting, copying those key values from that machine to this machine and so on, right? So my end goal is to connect this particular master, which where the Jenkins master is running, and I should be able to connect my slave to that master. So that is the end goal. Now my slave is ready. Now my slave is ready. I am able to let me verify that I am able to connect it or not. So to connect this, I will go to this particular command here. This is the command I have. So this is what it is example. It is saying you can connect it this way. So I'll just use this way, but you have to use the user, which user you have to use. Just remember that. So you have created a CentOS user, right? It is a CentOS machine. You have created a CentOS user. So you have to connect using CentOS. So you can just go here and copy and paste it here. So Jenkins PM is already there in my local machine, and I will use POS, and I should be able to connect. Yeah, so I am able to connect. So I am inside the slave machine. I am able to connect to that slave machine, which is called my slave. Okay. So this is my slave. Yeah. So uh, this my slave should be able to connect to master, right? So as I already said, in master, Jenkins dashboard is running, and there is a user called Jenkins, right? Jenkins, and that Jenkins should be able to connect to the slave. So via some username, right? So I have to add a new user. So before that, let me configure a few things here. I should be able to install Java there. So to install Java there, like it's a CentOS machine, I will do some basic sanity like upgrade upgrade YAM. So I have to do YAM update, and which may fail because of new CentOS 8. I have to do some comments to connect to the repository. Yeah. So these two comments are there, which are already in the previous sessions. Also, I did the same thing. It will take some time. Yep. So let me do YAM update. Now it will take a lot of time actually. It is updating the yum package software, all the softwares will be upgraded to the latest version. It is basically necessary to make sure that all your packages, all your installed packages which are there in your operating system CentOS machine are to the latest version, right? So the VM which we have created may be old, maybe having old softwares, outdated softwares. So before installing a new software, make sure that at least one time you update all the softwares which are installed in your machine. Okay, so it will take some time. All these updates will happen. So after this update happens, I will try to install. I'll just follow these particular steps. Okay, to actually connect to the slave machine. So let me explain what I am doing here. Okay, so this is straightforward. You are going to install Java. That's what you are doing. And after that, how are you going to set up the slave? How are you going to set up the slave? So here, see carefully, look into each and every step. You are creating there is a command in Linux called user add. Okay, so using user add, you are going to create a new user. The new user is Jenkins slave 01. Okay, you are with me, right? So I'm trying to add a new user. The username is Jenkins slave 01, and I will log in as Jenkins slave 01. By default, I am logged in as CentOS user, right? If you remember, the command that I have typed is ssh -a CentOS -i the PM file CentOS @ something. So I logged in as a CentOS user, but I am creating a new user called Jenkins slave, which is dedicated to connect to the Jenkins master. So it is ideal practice to create a separate user, which can be used to connect to the master. So now I actually I log in as Jenkins slave. To log in as Jenkins slave, this is a simple command. Always remember. So to you are connected as a CentOS user, but if you want to log in as a different user in the same connection, you use this particular command. You have to use this command, CentOS su minus and the username. If you don't give any username, if you just type sudo su minus, you will be logged in as root user. But if you give the username, you will be logged in as that particular user. So once you log in as that particular user, you have to create a SSH key. You remember SSH keys, right? So SSH keys, this is the command to actually create SSH key. SSH key gen is the tool which is actually used to create private key public key pairs. And using this public key private key pairs, generally we can do a SSH connection. So this is the command that is used to create a SSH key under the user Jenkins slave 01. In this case, I logged in as Jenkins slave 01, and then I create SSH key. This is the command. So always remember these commands, list of commands. This is very handy, and it's good to actually practice by your side once at least. So do the practice, then you get the idea of what we are actually doing, right? So once you create the SSH key, you will be having public key private key combination. And so the public key private key here, as mentioned here, they will be copied in this location. So there will be folder called .sh, which is a hidden folder, and there IDRSA private key will be created. IDRSA public key will be created. IDRSA.pub is a public key. IDRSA is a private key. Okay. Now, after creating the public private key, you should be using this public private key combination to authorize the master to connect to the slave, right? So that you can do by copying this particular public key into a file called authorized keys. So Linux will automatically understand by the term authorized keys. So it is a commonly used way, saying that you just copy this public key that you have generated into authorized keys. So that by doing that, what you mean is like anyone who wants to uh, connect to me is authorized if they use this public key private key combination. If they want to connect to me via this public key, I will allow them. So that's what I'm saying. So I am copying this particular public key to a file called authorized keys. Okay, and I will give them the permission 700 is like 7 is 111, right? So to that particular user, I am providing 111 means like you are giving read, write, and uh, execute permissions. You are giving read, write, and execute permissions to that particular user who is actually logging using this public key. Who is logging using this public key is provided the permissions. So that's what this particular set of commands actually mean. Let me see. Okay, it is not yet done. Okay, so try to understand what we are doing, and then once you understand what we are doing, then you just run these commands and it should be good to go. So these are the commands that you need to run to authorize to create a particular private key public key combination and authorize that particular public key to allow someone from outside to be able to connect to the slave machine, right? So now afterwards this master should also be configured. Master is what? Master is our Jenkins server. So log into our Jenkins server. In our Jenkins server also, we should be able to, in our Jenkins server, we already have a user. I already said you, we have a user called Jenkins. When we install Jenkins, there is a user already created called Jenkins, and all our master specific builds, jobs, everything will be running as a Jenkins users by default. Okay. Now this Jenkins user will be also be having a folder called .ssh, right? So you have to create this particular .ssh folder, and there you have to again you have to actually map using a tool called key scan. So this key scan, which actually takes input as the slave IP address where the slave is configured. This is the slave machine, right? So this slave machine has exposed its public key via this authorized key file name, and that will be scanned by this particular command ssh key scan, and we provide the ssh IP address of the host name of this particular slave machine, and we add those values in the known hosts folder. There is a specific folder, there is a specific file called known hosts in the master machine. You just add this particular scanned IP address authorized key into this known host, and you change the permissions. You just give the permissions of 700 to the known host. So once you do this to configuration, right? So they are actually linked to each other. Jenkins master and Jenkins slaves are linked to each other. Now, whenever a job actually runs via dashboard, when we run any job, right? There we can actually connect to the slave machine. We can connect to the slave machine via the private key. So that we do it via the UI. Via UI, you have to add this particular private key using the UI, that the private key that we have actually created using SSH keygen. So these are the steps we need to follow. Okay, so it is bit amount of like lot of commands that we need to follow, but this is the standard thing, and it's very important for us to understand all these commands, because in the real time these are already done for you, and don't know how what is the magic going on behind and what are the keys key value pairs that you need to use. You have no idea about it when you are actually using the SSH keys. So generally in industries, right, uh, this is the way generally they do to connect a master to a slave. Okay, and so I always remember these are the three steps. First, you have to configure the slave using these commands, and I have explained to what are the commands doing, and you need to understand what is authorized key here. Okay, and in the master you need to do configuration, and here you need to understand what is known hosts here. Okay, so if you feel free to more explore more, learn more about what is authorization keys. Okay, what is known hosts. Okay, so you need to understand what is authorization keys, what is known keys, what is SSH key scan command, what is this SSH key scan command. So once you understand all these things, you are good to go. So you configure the master, you configure the slave, and you configure using Jenkins dashboard. Once you configure the GSAP code, after you follow these three steps, right, you should be able to connect to a master, which you already saw that before, that I was actually connected to a particular machine called slave one, right? So now I am going to connect to my slave. This my slave I have created right now itself in before you. I will be able to connect my slave to my Jenkins master. So let me wait. Okay, so this is done. So yum update is done. Let me install Java. Maybe it is not necessary, but let me do that, because at least the Java project should be running. So just to install Java, you just need to execute this one line command in CentOS. You have the yum package updater. You just install Java using yum. Okay. So you are installing Java inside the slave. After this is done, I will follow these steps. I will follow these steps. First, I will configure the slave. I will just add the user Jenkins slave 01. Okay, it is taking some time. Let's wait for some time. I think 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, so Java updation is done. Java JDK is installed. Now I will go and add user. This is I'm adding a user called Jenkins slave 01. Okay, Jenkins dash slave dash 01. I am adding the user. I added the user. Next step is to actually connect to that particular login as that particular user. So to log in as now I am logged in. You see in the left side, I am logged in as root. By using this command, I am logged in as Jenkins slave. See, this prompt has changed to Jenkins slave 1. So that means I am actually logged in as Jenkins slave 01. Now you type pwd, you will be in Jenkins slave 01 home. Jenkins slave 01 home. Now you are logged in as Jenkins slave 01. Now you can actually create the SSH keys. So just execute this command to create the public key and private key pair. So the public key private key pair can be created using this particular command. Okay. Now you created a public key private key pair. You can verify that you have created a public key pair using the output is there in .ssh folder ID RSA, and the public key is there in SSH ID RSA pub. So these two files are there. You can actually verify that using CD. The folder is the hidden folder. It is you cannot see that by using ls, but you can see that by using ls minus a. So if you say ls minus a, you can see this hidden folder .ssh is already created. So you can go to that hidden folder, the cdls .ssh. You can verify what are the files created. You can see that there are two files created. IDRSA is a private key, IDRSA pub is a public key. So these two files are created now. Okay. Now IDRSA public key is created. Now you can actually copy this public key to authorized key file. So this is a command used to copy the file contents of the file public key are copied to authorized keys. Once you copy this authorized keys, that means you are saying that anyone that uses this private key public key contents, whoever uses these public key contents are authorized users to connect to me. So that's what you are saying here. Okay. Now you have created a new file called authorized key. You need to change the mode so that it is executable to the user who is logged in. So I change the mode. So that's it. That's it. You are done with the slave configuration. Now I'll come out of the slave configuration now. Yeah. So I come out of the slave configuration. Now let me go to the master. So what's my master? So I will come out of the slave. I came out of the slave. Okay, this is my slave. I came out of the slave. Now I log in as a master. How to log in as a master? Go to this instance. This is my master. I have to connect to the master. I will connect it using this particular command. Okay, because I am using a CentOS user, I will actually connect it using the CentOS username. Now I am connected to the master machine where my Jenkins dashboard is running. So this particular dashboard that we are seeing right now, this dashboard, Jenkins dashboard, is running in this machine. I named it as Bastion. So this machine is having the Jenkins master running. I am connected to that particular machine. So I am inside the machine now. I will connect as root. To connect as root, the command is, remember, the sudo sudo dash. This will connect me as root. Okay. So I was connected as CentOS. Now the prompt, you can see it has prompted as root. That means like sudo su minus will actually change the logged in user as root. Now I am connected as root. Okay. Now let's go to the readme MD. Now these steps I have followed in the slave machine. Now these steps I will follow in the master machine. Okay. So I will have to create a folder .ssh for the user Jenkins. Okay, let me do that. Okay, I created SSH folder there. I created SSH folder there. Now I have to go to that particular folder. That folder is, I'm going to that particular folder. After going to that particular folder, I had to do a key scan on the slave IP address. Okay, so the slave, this is what you have to give. You have to connect to the slave machine, right? The slave machine has an IP address. So that IP address I have to give here. You can actually give the IP address or the host name. So you have to find the IP address. The IP address, how you can find out, go to this particular slave, my slave, click on this, and there you find the private IP. You actually connect it via private email. So the all are there internally within the VPC network, right? So you can just connect using VPC private IP of that particular slave machine. So this is the slave IP address. So just give that. Okay. Now you have copied that particular copied that public authorized key information into the known hosts uh, of our master machine. So you can just verify it like this. You can say, so this is what you can see. These are the contents of the known hosts. Okay. Now to just confirm that it should be running in 777 mode, you just make sure that uh, the known hosts have access. The Jenkins user has access to the known hosts. So Jenkins chown command, you know that, right? Chown command. Chown command is used to change the permissions of any file. In this case, our file is known host. You change the permissions of the known host files so that the Jenkins user, this user called Jenkins owner, and the group called Jenkins have permissions to access the file called known host. So that is what chown command does. So once you have that particular thing, you make it executable. Known host should be accessible via 111. So 700 you make it. So that's it. So you have done the configuration in the master. So once you do this sanity command execution, you should be able to configure your master and connect to your slave. So now let's go to the dashboard. So next step is to connect to the newly created node in using Jenkins dashboard. So just go to the dashboard. Here, this is our dashboard. Go to manage Jenkins. Here, you need to add a new slave node, right? Now you can add a slave node. Go to the manage nodes and clouds. Okay. And to add a node, here, there's a node symbol, new node. And let's name it like my slave, right? My slave. I added the new slave. I make it a permanent agent. I create the agent. Now I should be able to give the all the permission, all the required entries which are essentially needed to connect to the slave, right? So by default, once you connect to that particular slave, what is the directory you need to be connected to, right? What is the directory that you need to connect it to? So that you know, right? You should be able to connect to the home directory of the new user that you have created. The new user was uh, my Jenkins slave, right? So that was the user, right? So here you remember you created a user called Jenkins slave. So you should be able to connect to the Jenkins slave home folder, right? So you can actually go to the you can actually go to the connect and verify the verify the home directory. You can just go to that slave machine. Again, you can actually reconnect to that particular slave machine here. Go to the slave machine, connect to the machine via this command, and find the home directory. Find home directory. Generally, it will be like /home and the username. Just for explaining you, I am again logging in. I can just type that particular home directory directly here, like /home/ and the username. The username was Jenkins slave 01, right? So you can just do that. That should be enough. But to cross check that you are entering the correct home directory, you can just actually log in and confirm that. So log in to that particular slave machine again. Mm, I logged into the CentOS machine, and to connect as uh, slave, I have to type the slave name actually, right? The slave is Jenkins slave name. Okay, now I am logged in as Jenkins slave name. Now you can see the present working directory. This is the directory, right? Home/home Jenkins slave 1, right? Home Jenkins slave 01. That's what I have. Home Jenkins slave 1, right? This is the same thing. Okay. So I have given what is the root directory that I need to connect. Once I am connected, where is the directory where I should log in? So this is the remote directory name that I have to give. And I will give it some name, some label, which will be used by the Jenkins jobs. So I will say that I will use the same for simplicity purpose. I'll use the same name as the slave name, my slave. You can give another label also, but this label is very important. This label will be used by the Jenkins jobs to connect and delegate the tasks to that particular slave, which is having this particular label. Suppose your label. So let's if I say my slave label is my slave as the name for the label for this particular slave, that means that in the Jenkins jobs, when I create a configure a Jenkins jobs, I will say that delegate. I will give this particular name my slave and say that delegate all the tasks to a slave which is having name my slave. So it will map. It will search for all slaves and it will search for that particular slave with name my slave and give the task to that slave. Okay. So then your MS build or whatever commands that you execute as a part of Jenkins job, which will be running in this particular machine, which is having the label my slave. So you always keep that in mind. This label is very important. Okay. Now usage use this node as much as possible. That means all tasks which are assigned, which are created by Jenkins master will be delegated to the slave only. Okay, but you don't want to do that. You want to build only jobs with label expression matching this node. Okay, so only match if the job says that only execute these tasks to the slave, then only you execute it here. Otherwise, you can execute it in the master also. Okay. Now launch method. So launch, how are you going to launch? Obviously, we have done a lot of commands using to be able to connect to SSH, right? So this is the what launch agent you are doing it. Launch agent via SSH and SSH. What is the host machine name? Host IP, right? The host IP is the IP address of the slave. This is the IP address of the slave, private IP address of the slave. Where is the private address of the slave? This is private address of the slave. So copy this private IP address. Okay. So how are you going to connect this private IP address? You are going to connect the IP address using. Okay. So this is what I have already created. I don't want to use that. I will create a new credentials. So I will create a new credentials and I will say that I want to use SSH credentials, right? So I want to use SSH username with private key. So I use this SSH username with private key and I will give it my name, my slave. So this is the ID I'm giving my slave. And description, uh, the credentials used to connect to my slave, right? And the IP address of my slave is, this is the IP address, right? So using the description, people can understand that what is the credentials, to which machine this credentials actually belongs to. Okay. And the username, you already created the username for the slave. So this slave is the username that you have to create, right? So username, you give the slave name. Okay. And what is the private key that you have to connect, right? So that private key, you can connect it. You have to get the private key from the machine. Okay. So that machine private key, okay, I'm disconnected. You will get it from ID RSA file. Okay. So you can just copy this particular ID RSA file. It will take some time to reconnect. So you remember we created the public key, private key using these steps, right? So set up Jenkins slave steps We have followed these steps, right? In these steps, we have created the private key, public key combination, right? So public key is with name IDR, say dot pub, and private key is with combination ID RSA. So you have to copy this private key combination, private key value into this particular dialog box. In this dialog box, you have to copy this particular key value, private key value. You are saying that I am entering the private key value directly, right? So to get that value, you have to connect to the slave machine. You are connected to the slave machine. Then where is the private key? It should be there in Jenkins slave. Uh, Jenkins slaves, right? Jenkins slave 01. Here you have a folder called .ssh. Go to that .ssh. You have there we have the ID RSA values, right? So these values you can actually copy. How you can copy is you can just copy this from here. So this is the value of the private key, right? So carefully copy this value. So just copy the entire value. Copy this entire value. Okay. Right click, copy, and paste it here. Okay. And add. So you have Jenkins slave 1. This is what the new credentials you have added, right? You should be able to connect, right? Now, yeah, so you're good to go. Okay, so you are successfully connected, right? So if you are able to see to this play, so see here, right? You are able to connect your master Jenkins server to a new slave called my slave. And in this case, my slave is a separate machine, which is basically a CentOS machine, which is having a label called my slave, right? And all these credentials, so how to connect everything, we have done a lot of things and we are able to successfully connect it, right? Now you can actually delegate any tasks that you are creating in your project to delegate to the uh, my slave. So how we are going to do that? How are you going to do that? So let me start with a new project. So I will say that I will delegate the task to slave, right? So uh, I will name it as slave delegated project. I will say that it is a slave delegated project. I'll say okay. And how do I configure it? So here there's an option. You can see that restrict where the projects can be run. So I will click on this, and here I will say that restrict all the projects where this project can run on a slave machine, which is having label called my slave. So if the slave has a label called my slave, the project, whatever build I actually do, it will run inside the my slave. So that's what I'm saying here. And just for simplicity purpose, you know all the other steps, right? All these configuration are already explained. I'll just go and execute shell. Okay, I'll say echo building on slave. Okay, that's it. So this way you are able to connect a project to be running on another machine called my slave. Okay, all you need to do is connect that particular slave and configure that slave to be able to connect to my slave machine. So my slave is having a label my slave, and you just give that particular label. And all next time whenever you build this particular project, it will actually run inside the my slave. It will try to connect to that slave and it will build inside that particular slave. You can verify that going to the console output. So you can see that it is running remotely on my slave machine, and it is running the commands. Okay. So that's what it has happened, and it runs successfully. It is a simple echo command, so it quickly executed that particular command. Let's say, for example, now I will to just verify that all your commands are executed successfully inside my slave. Let's uh, see, you are inside the slave machine only, right? So you are inside the slave machine. Where are you? You are inside the Jenkins slave machine. Here you can see that there is a workspace already created. There is a folder, new folder created, workspace. Go into that workspace and see. So you can see that a project called slave delegated project is there here, right? It is inside the slave machine. Inside the slave machine, there is a folder created which actually keeps information of all the jobs that you have run inside the project. So slave delegated project, whatever logs, if there are there, it will go there. So this particular project, which is named my slave delegated project, got executed inside the slave machine, slave delegated project. So that's it. You may have questions like, what if I want to not run in the slave machine? I want to run this particular project, not in the slave machine, but in the master machine only. It's very simple. Okay. So instead of, you can just uncheck this particular box. So you don't want to run in the slave, right? You just remove this checkbox. You just remove this checkbox and apply save. Okay. You click on configure and remove that particular checkbox. And now again build. So I build again. The second job got started running. So once you go into this particular second project, go into the console output. Here you can see that there is nothing called MySlave. It actually run in the Jenkins master machine only. Got it? I think you followed me, right? So now you have complete idea of how master slave configuration works. How are you delegating any tasks from master to the slave? So how can you make sure that on build now, you delegate the build process to the slave instead of running in the master? So imagine that you have a build which you have configured using configure, and you have written all the build scripts here, and it cannot run on master. Suppose this particular command doesn't run on master. Suppose like ms build is there, ms build that configuration like C drive, this all command. If you're given blah 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 some commands you have given, right? This cannot be run on master machine. And if you have a slave which is a Windows specific slave, then you can say it is having some label. Then you can say that I want to run all this particular project build process inside a Windows 10 machine, which is having label Windows 10. You just have to create a virtual machine, Windows 10 machine, and configure it, connect it to the master, and your build will run inside that particular machine with label Windows 10. So that's how you actually delegate the task from master to the slave. Got it? Okay. Okay, then we will take a few minutes of break and get back. Okay, let's take some 5 minutes, 10 minutes break, and I'll get back to you. So I think we are good now. Um,
Yeah, Anil, we'll meet at 10, right?
yeah, Prerna. So we'll meet before 10, just 9:40, 9:55.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
EP here, yeah, thank you.
Yep. Okay. Hello, welcome back. Okay, so we have discussed about master slave configuration in Jenkins, right? So this is what we have discussed with. So if you remember, like, um, so if you remember in the previous project, if you remember we have created a project called My Freestyle project. Here, the first build was failed. And if you go into the console output, if you remember, it was failed because the master was actually trying to connect to slave one, and uh, and it was not able to connect to that particular machine slave one, right? So it happened only because one particular configuration. So when you actually go to the dash manage Jenkins in the nodes, right? You have a specific configuration for MySlave. In the MySlave, you have some specific configuration called usage. So in the usage, you have one option called use this node as much as possible. So what does that actually mean? Use this node as much as possible. What does that mean? That means that all jobs, whatever is run in the whatever is configured, whatever Jenkins jobs, freestyle projects or pipeline projects which are actually configured in the Jenkins, they will automatically to the maximum extent they will be trying to run in MySlave if you opt for this particular project, opt for this particular option. Okay, so if you opt this option, it will automatically go whether it's label matches or not. It will try to run in this particular slave machine. So if you want to specifically run explicitly when the slave is only mentioned, then you have to go for this option, only build jobs with label expression matching this name. So if you select this particular option and if you run the job, then all jobs will try to run in this particular machine only. So for example, here you have put a label my slave and you have selected this option, use this node as much as possible. You click save.
Anil,
Yeah.
you're sharing the screen, Anil?
Oh, okay. So I'm not sharing it. Okay, sorry. Okay, let me share the screen. Okay. Okay. So I thought that I was already sharing. So in the last few minutes, what we have actually learned is how to connect a master and slave configuration, right? We were able to successfully connect our master with a slave called my slave, right? So if you initially remember, uh, in my freestyle project, like the first build was failed because it was actually trying to connect to a slave called slave one always. Okay, it was always try to run on a slave called slave one, and there um, and there was other issues also, like Git was not running because I have not installed Git yet, right? In the master machine, I should be able to run Git at least, right? I should run install Git. It was not there. So the point is, like, why was it actually running running the particular build in slave one? Why was it running in the slave one? It was running because of this particular specific configuration. So in the machine node specific configuration in my slave, there is an option. If you click on this, how was it configured? You remember? So here there is an option like use this node as much as possible. So whether the label matches or not, it doesn't care. If you use this particular option, whatever jobs you actually try to run, all will run in this particular node, my slave only, because you have selected that use this node as much as possible. So that's why that will run. For example, let me run this project again. So in this project, if you remember, I have removed the label. I didn't mention any label. That means it should actually ideally run in master only, in the master only. So let me run it again now. So I think it will try to run slave only because already I have said that run any kind of project in the slave as much as possible. So I will try to build it now. So the third project got started now. My freestyle project got started. And you see, it is trying to run in my slave again, in my slave. Though I haven't given that in configuration settings, it is trying to run in my slave project. So I haven't given it, but it is running on my slave. So I will go and change the, let me remove this all. This is unnecessarily giving errors because I have to do a lot of things to actually configure. So I will just try to run this particular build only. Okay. So I'll just try to run. We will focus only on this particular topic. So let me build now again. Now there will be fourth job. It will successfully run, but where it is running, you just need to keep that in mind. So go to this particular fourth project and see the project. It is running on my slave. Though you haven't said that to run on my slave machine, it is running on my slave only because you have configured the slave to run as much jobs, as much tasks as possible in the my slave only. So that is what is actually makes every job to run on this my slave machine only. How to change that? Go to that slave configuration. Go to that manage Jenkins, manage nodes, and in my slave, configure the my slave and change this particular usage attribute. Change it to say that only build jobs with label expression matching this node. If you select this particular option, now, and now go and try to run your Jenkins job, my style project now. Now there will be a fifth job. Try to build it now, build now. So now if you see the fifth project, it is not running on my slave. It is running on the master machine only. The master in the master Jenkins jobs is running on master machine only. Okay. So it will run on slave only explicitly if you mention that to run on an explicit slave. Go to this particular field for configuration, check this particular thing, and here you say I want to run on my slave. If you explicitly mention that I want to run on my slave, then only it will actually run. Now let's go and trigger the job again. So sixth project, go to the, you see now it is going because you have explicitly mentioned that I want to run this particular build in the machine called my slave, then only she have to run. So that's what you have mentioned. So it is running. So just keep that in mind. So there are a lot of combinations, primitive combinations that happens in Jenkins. So if you can actually configure it according to your needs. Okay, so with this, we actually complete the master slave configurations. Okay, so we have covered RBAC. We have iterated through RBAC plugin. We have actually configured master slave configuration. We have learned about what is a freestyle project, how to create a freestyle project. We have also demoed about how to create a project, how to do configure project to work with the GitHub, right? So that also we have actually said in the previous session. Now also we have said iterated again, right? So we covered almost all the topics, most of the topics of Jenkins. Yeah. So what else? Yeah. So let's say now let's discuss about a pipeline project now. So let's try to create a my pipeline project. So I will try to create a my pipeline project. I was actually planning to start Ansible. So we will just quickly run a my pipeline project and then move to Ansible. So I'll create a my pipeline project. I'll click OK. Click OK. Now here I will explain you what a my pipeline project is like, right? So in my pipeline project, you can actually run the entire pipeline project here. So pipeline project basically specifically has one particular syntax. So it actually starts with agent agent any and a set of tasks. So I will explain you step by step. So here, let's go to my pipeline project, one simple pipeline project. So I think my Python project is one of the pipeline project here. Um, okay, so So this is a typical example of pipeline project. So this is what a syntax of pipeline project is. So here, um, you can actually create a pipeline project, simple project. A typical pipeline project follows this syntax. So you can write the particular pipeline script in this particular command prompt here. So a typical pipeline project starts with the term pipeline and followed by set of all steps. Here, yeah, I'll explain the all steps. So typical project, you can actually mention this particular agent. So agent is nothing but the slave, right? Slave. Where do you want to run this particular project is what you are saying. So you can run in any option where you can actually run. You say that whatever slave machine, or whether it is a master machine or whether it is any slave machine, you can run anywhere. So that is the meaning of agent any. Okay, and then followed by set of stages. A pipeline project has a set of stages. So set of stages is like one stage can be build stage, then followed by a test stage, followed by deploy stage, followed by release stage. So you can just run, you have to follow this particular syntax. Okay. A typical pipeline project. This is an example of typical pipeline project. What happens is that it will go on executing stage from top to bottom. It will first run build stage and then for run test stage. In this particular example, we have just simple echo statements. So this is a particular example, a simple example of a simple pipeline project without any contributions. Uh, you can just say like this and you can start building it. Okay. So so now you can see that the pipeline project has run. You have it's well formatted. Now you can see that all your stages are visible in a in a particular in a particular format. You can see this format, right? So each and every stage is looked as a block, is an individual block here. So whatever you have mentioned in the pipeline names will be there in the table header, and the job will be divided according to the stage. So it will say you the complete description here. So you have run one particular project, you can see the how much time each and every stage actually took, and what whether it is, if it is passed, it actually passes. So it actually shows with a green color, and if it fails, it shows the red color. So this is a typical example of a simple pipeline project. So you can actually configure it to run in different ways. You can configure it to map with GitHub. So the options are all the same. GitHub, if you want to run a GitHub project, you have to mention the GitHub project here, and you have to you can use the uh, poll SCM or GitHub hook trigger configurations to actually you have actually decide what kind of trigger you want to use. If you want to use the GitHub trigger, we have webhook kind of trigger mechanism, then you can go for these settings. If you want to use poll mechanism, you can go for these settings. Okay, so maybe we can try one by one, step by step, right? So how do we run these steps? Okay. Yeah, so what we'll do is like we will decide upon the project. So this is a project we are going to write right now. Okay, so now so go to this part of project. For that, we need to actually install Git at the first go. So to install Git, this is GitHub project, right? So you should actually install Git inside your machine, inside your master machine. So to install Git, it is a straight command yum install Git. Go log into the master machine. Log into the master machine here. I think you are already there in the master machine. So this is your master machine, Bastion. So go to the master machine. Log into the master machine. Let's wait for the prompt to come up. Yep. So you can log into your master machine like this. Okay, so now you are connected to your master machine. Now, what happened? Okay, yeah. So some temporary error happened. So you are connected to the master machine. Let's see whether you installed Git or not. Okay, Git is also installed here. Git is successfully installed. Cool. Now you can actually once Git is installed, GitHub plugin is there. Now you can actually configure your master to run the pipeline machines, pipeline commands. So you can just go to your my pipeline project. In this project, you can say which GitHub project you are going to use. So this is a GitHub project that you are going to use, right? So copy this particular GitHub project URL, https github.com, right? So go to this, type this particular project. Now, by doing this, it will actually try to connect to that particular GitHub project and run it. Okay, so now GitHub project, it will pull the GitHub project, and you can say that I want to build it for every run. Let's say I want to run it. So you have two options I have mentioned, like GitHub hooks or SCM. Um, we can go with GitHub hooks. We can run for every minute. Like I remember this is regular expression and syntax. I think 5 stars applies for minute. So it will run for every minute. So try to learn about regular expressions, how to run it for every hour. So it actually already gives a hint. So if you want to run it for every hour, so this is the syntax. If you want to run for every minute, this is the syntax. So if you want other configurations, you have to learn how to configure what is the regular expression you have to give. So quickly demo it. I want to run it for every minute. So I'm executing it like this. Now this will be triggered for every minute. Okay. This will be triggered for every minute. So what I mean by triggering for every minute, whenever a git push happens, for every minute it will try to see whether a git push has happened or not. If a good git push has happened, it will automatically try to build it. So now you are trying to build it manually, right? So what are you actually doing it? Whatever you are doing it manually now, it will automatically get triggered by this configuration. Okay. So whatever you do it by clicking on this build now, it is automatically triggering, it is manually triggering it, right? It is manually triggering it and it is executing this build commands like this. Na? So instead of that, it will trigger whenever there is a git push. So let me do a git push here. So I can just do a push here like this. Na? So I will just go to readme. I will do something like, I will try to edit it manually. I will say, mm, something. So I'll say trying to trigger Jenkins. Okay. And I'll push it. So I pushed it now. So I pushed a change in Jenkins. So I think now it should actually pick up. Ideally, it should pick up. So my configuration in such a way that it actually runs for every minute and try to see if there is any git push happened. And if a git push happens, it will try to build it. Yep. Hi, Rick.
Yes, my question is, the scheduler, wouldn't it be on cron, not regular expression? The cron that you, for the scheduler, you use the cron, and not the regular. There's no regex for that, right? It's cron. Fine.
Okay.
Yeah, just want to clarify, that's not regex, right? Or like your asterisk for scheduling.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
cron,
So
right?
it's a cron expression.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yep.
Not regex.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to clarify, it's not regex. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yep. So it should actually build by now because I have configured it for 1 minute. Let me try again. So did I do something? Sometimes it takes So literally, these are the steps sufficient to actually build. If it doesn't work, I think we have to go and configure it in different way. So I have said that I want to build a Python project now here, and I want to poll the build the SCM for every minute. For every minute, ignore post commit hooks. Oh, so okay. So I mention master. So oh yeah. So there is a way to say that. Okay, this is what actually says that whenever there is a build happens in the master, then do that, right? Okay, let me do this way. So yeah, so this is what direct scripts I have mentioned to actually run. This is what the direct script actually I have run, and somehow I think even if I do that, I didn't mention that in which whether the push was happening in the master, it should be triggered or not, all those configuration. I think the combinations of those combination will actually work. So like configure your pipeline to poll for every minute and try to get run the pipeline script from the particular SCM project, from the SCM source control management project. So the project is Git. From that Git, again mention the URL here. Okay, so this is the URL again. You can mention the same URL. Where is it? Yeah. So repository URL, you mentioned this repository URL, and because it is a public repository, you don't need to have to give the credentials ideally. Yeah. And you are saying that the trigger should happen for the master branch. Let me verify that. Yeah. So I have a master branch. So any commit that happens to the master branch should actually ideally trigger a build. And what it means like, so once I run this script path from Jenkins file should actually run. So what is the Jenkins file path? Let me verify this. So this is the Jenkins files path. So these all things will run, and these scripts may not work because of few commands may not be there, or I have to verify whether pip is there, pip3 is already installed inside that machine or not. Let's give it a try. Okay, so now we will try to build this particular Jenkins file script on a particular webhook, right? So Jenkins file, I have given the Jenkins file hook, and this script will be run whenever there is a commit in the master. Whenever there is a commit in the master and the repository URL, this one. Okay. Now apply, save. So let me actually, yeah, I think it should work. Let's go give it a try. I think everything is done. Yeah, everything is done. So it will actually poll for every 1 minute, and it will try to run this particular, it will try to build from this particular repository for every minute. It will try to see for changes in the master. Yep. So let's me go and actually go and edit it again. This time I'm removing the test. And I'll say testing Jenkins again. Okay. Actually, this should be enough actually. So this should actually trigger the build. Now I trigger the build. Or did I say apply? I did apply later. I'm doing the commit here. It should actually run. It should run actually. I don't have the credentials because it is a public repository. I don't have to give the credentials for sure. Maybe it is expecting for a credentials. And pipeline syntax. Okay. Okay, maybe it's because of am I doing it for the same correct project? Am I doing it for the same project? Anil but B Python web. Let me close all others. And but be Python web. Oh, okay. I think there is some other thing should be. I think there is some zip should be installed in. I remember like I should do yum install zip. Some other packages should be installed. I forgot that. Mhm. Okay, let's wait. This is hand. I'm doing a manual build for now. Yeah, it's working fine. When I do a manual build, it is picking up the Jenkins file. I think first time we need to do manual build. Next time it will try to automatically build by itself. Okay, it failed. It failed because of I didn't actually test whether all the required packages are well formed. Basically, this Jenkins file, which is configured to run here. So we can say check that. We can check that actually. What actually caused the problem? You can go you can go and check what has failed. Like go to the build, see the console output and see what has actually failed. So these are all skipped. A terminal is required to read the password. Either use, okay, so okay, so Jenkins is not configured to run the commands. Sudo Jenkins is not a sudo user. So ideally you should be able to run the sudo commands. Okay. So this is something like we need to configure like, so here you can see that this command sudo yum install python will trigger uh, a password check actually. So okay, so I think I need to lay like, so if I run it as a sudo su minus Jenkins. No, I'm inside my machine. So this I need to connect to the master machine. Okay, so this is um, So you get the idea, right? So we are actually trying to run a build. So the pipeline got triggered, and it is trying to run the Python script yum install Python 3, which is basically there here. So here it is trying to run. So basically you can understand that it is successfully able to run the Jenkins file. It is successfully able to run the Jenkins file. It is coming here, and somehow it is failing in this particular place. And that happens because sudo Jenkins user is unable to run sudo commands. So it is asking for password. So that one you can actually verify it. It's a completely different topic. So we can make it running for now, like adding it to the sudo here, sudo add it to the sudoers. How to add it to the sudoers is um, okay. So let me connect to the machine. So to connect the machine, go to the bastion, and then here, here, you're following up, right? You're following up, right? So let me connect to the machine. Okay, it's the same command. Same. Okay, so sudo su minus. So I am logging it as Jenkins. Now I am logging in sudo. So I am not able to connect as Jenkins user. So I'm able to log in it as root. Because I'm not in the list of sudoers, right? So there is, I think there is a called sudoers. Sudo ers. Okay. 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 So in the list of sudoers, Jenkins should be able to do the sudo command. So here we need to add Jenkins users as the sudoers. Root, similarly here, let me try. Uh, so with this, allow root to run any commands anywhere. Similarly, allow Jenkins to run any commands anywhere. Okay. Now, um, Okay, I have added Jenkins as a sudo user. Sudo and okay, I'm missing something. Or maybe like adding the sudo should solve the problem. Let me try to run the build again. Okay. Where is the build? And another important thing I forgot to actually, we have to install something called zip. uh, so yum install zip -y. So git is installed. We should also install zip. I don't know why system has become slow now somehow. The system has become very slow. Okay, I think my system got hanged. Okay, so we have covered most of the topics of Jenkins. So in the last topic, we already covered this GitHub builds. Actually, we already saw that. Today, somehow, because the system got hanged, not able to run the build. So we have video sessions. We can actually follow the video sessions. And probably next week, we can actually show the build process again. No issues today. I think once it gets hanged, it will take a lot of time to actually come out of this hang. Come out of this hang, it will take some time. So probably because we can actually skip this again because we already discussed in the previous session. So you can actually look into watch out the videos of how actually we can actually build um, how we can actually build Jenkins step by step. So we have this third section. If you follow this third section, deploying Jenkins, the steps are very clear. There are like 41 steps, 40 more than 41 steps. So this is how you actually run each and every step, and you'll get an idea of how to build a typical Git project. So in this case, we have mentioned each and every step line by line. How to run a particular Jenkins build. Okay, so that hope my machine is out of hang. It is hanged now. So I can quickly stop this machine to we don't want to waste much time. So the best option is like to actually stop it or reboot it. I'll reboot it. Okay, so I rebooted it, and now probably I'll try to run the Jenkins. I'll stop all the Jenkins jobs so that my machine don't get hanged. I rebooted my machine. Probably my IP address, everything got changed now because of that. It is 1352.6. Okay, so IP address didn't get changed. it is running. Okay. I rebooted the machine, still it is hanged only. Okay. Right. So let me try to. Okay. So we don't want to waste time here for long. Actually, this happens because it's basically happened because we are running this particular Jenkins job scheduled for every 1 minute, right? So I think that is the main reason we have a very small machine. We created a very small machine and we have triggered a Jenkins jobs to poll for every 1 minute. And that made the Jenkins master machine very heavy and our system became very slow. So that is the reason. So somehow I had to stop this job. I have to stop this job. So that is the main reason why it got hanged. So next time when I try to run it for every minute, probably I have to spin up on a little bit big machine. So that would be the ideal solution. For now, I have no option. I will try to just stop the machine instead of reboot. Lost. Yeah, I will stop the machine. I'll stop the machine and start it again. Hopefully, then it should solve the problem. So I was actually planning to discuss about Ansible. I think that is a better place to. This is better time to start with Ansible. Um, so we have covered most of the topics. We have again revisited the things which we already discussed in the last session. We actually run the GitHub job also in the last session. Today we were not able to run it again. Only the GitHub part is missing, but you understood the concept definitely, right? So in order to run a GitHub Jenkins jobs, what are the steps we need to follow? We have how to actually create a webhooks in the GitHub in the settings, right? In the settings, we can go to the webhook here and provide the Jenkins URL. This is the way you can actually provide. And in the Jenkins, you have different options. If you provide a webhook, you need not actually poll for every minute. You can actually rely on GitHub webhook to actually trigger a build, which ideally should work, which I did today somehow it didn't work. We can actually make it working after the system starts again. Even the stop is not working so fast. Stopping is taking a lot of time. When the stop, okay, the machine got out. Okay. I only stopped the machine. I didn't terminate the machine, but it stopped. It terminated it, actually. I think it will take some time to come up. It didn't terminate it. Let's say stop. Terminate. Okay. Stop. Stop. It literally removed out the machine. Okay. So, oh, okay. So I have filtered it to actually show all uh, only running machines. So now it is stopped state. I can actually start it again. I can start the instance again. It will actually start the instance. That's not a problem. Okay, now it will start. The machine will start again. So after we start, probably we can actually try to see if everything works normal. Okay, it's in running state. Okay, so the IP address got changed. So this IP address got changed. So once we stop. So this is a problem. So probably it is still in initializing state. Okay, so we will come to this later. Now we will introduce our new topic now for now. That is, we have spent enough of time on Jenkins. So we actually covered last session. Last session we also covered this section as well on Jenkins, how to deploy. I would encourage you to go through this step by step, and if you follow these steps, if they are very clear, actually you should be able to uh, create a Jenkins jobs which triggers a Jenkins build successfully. If it clearly gives a step by step, and you should be able to build the Jenkins jobs and trigger a trigger a build whenever there is a GitHub push. Okay. So we have limited time, so we can just skip for now. Okay. Now let's see other things actually, other things in the lab. So we have a lot of other things to actually cover. We'll get back to Jenkins if we have more time. We'll just do a quick recap of what we have covered. So there are a lot of sections in Jenkins. So we have covered. Let's go through the slides. We have covered the basics of Jenkins. What is Jenkins and how to install Jenkins. We have gone through how to install Jenkins, how to do role-based access. We did that. Okay. And these are role-based access. Today we spent time to actually configure role-based access also. Today we spent time to actually configure master slave, successfully connected master and slave. Today we did that. Later we saw what is a Jenkins pipeline, what is the Jenkins what is the Jenkins. We also looked into GitHub, though we were not successfully able to do a GitHub on GitHub push. There was something missing on GitHub push. We should be able to run a Jenkins jobs. That is one. That is the only thing which was not successful. That's okay. I think we can do it in the next session once we are ready. After that, so we covered most of them. So we have seen how the pipeline works, how these jobs are, how we can see the console output and the status, how we can see the different stages. This is what we have seen. We know the steps, how to connect to GitHub, how we can connect. These are the steps to connect to GitHub, how to integrate it via freestyle project or the pipeline project. Okay, so this is what we were trying to do, and I think this is the main culprit. Why on running this particular regular expression, this is triggering for every 1 minute, and our machine is very small, and it got hanged up there. So I think this is the culprit which actually hanged our machine. That's okay. Next time when we have a bigger machine, ideally it should actually work with without any problem. So we have gone through what is a Jenkins file. We have gone through one Jenkins file, how to configure the Jenkins, how to provide credentials. Also, we have gone through when we actually try to connect a node. We have gone through. It is the same steps we need to follow for a Jenkins pipeline. So we're adding credentials. Also, we have gone through. Okay. So we have covered most of the only thing is practically implementing GitHub today. The machine got hanged. We are not able to see that. We will look into it in the next section. We'll just spend 5 to 10 minutes, and next session we should be able to successfully run Jenkins jobs by connecting to GitHub. So next session we'll cover it for sure. Today let's go to next step. What we are going to cover. Actually, we have another 15 minutes of time. I don't want to waste that time. Today we will try to introduce Ansible. I was trying to always try to come to Ansible, but I'm not getting time to get more into it. So Ansible, you know, right? Ansible is also open source tool. It is also very important, very powerful tool. We need to, as a DevOps engineer, we need to learn a lot about Ansible. So it is used in everywhere, like big companies like Microsoft and Microsoft, IBM. Everybody is using Ansible. So Ansible is a configuration management tool. So the basic idea of Ansible is Ansible is like if you want to deploy a software, if you want to run few set of commands in a large number of machines, like if you have hundreds of machines, and if you want to run the same configuration commands, if you want to install the same software in all the machines, then you can actually run it using Ansible with one few scripts, and with one go you can deploy all the machines at one go itself. That's the basic idea of Ansible, right? So 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 we have lot of things to learn about Ansible. Uh, um, so we will see what exactly is the Ansible. A lot of theory of Ansible is there. We'll introduce that so people know like what exactly Ansible does and what is the purpose of Ansible. We will have a quick recap of how the Ansible solves the real-time problems of installing software and how it makes the life of deployment and configuration of machine so very easy and in an automated way. We look into it step by step. Okay. So Ansible is open source code, and it is highly efficient and very highly powerful. And it is so simple that you don't need to have the installation of Ansible is pretty straightforward. It is as simple as installing using any package manager of your specific operating system. Whether it is in CentOS, we'll go through CentOS. We can just use yum install Ansible, and you should be good to install in single instruction. Installation is pretty simple, and it is the deployment. The way it deploys is pretty straightforward. So you need to have the proper credentials mapped with all the machines to which you want to execute the commands, and you do not install any particular. It is an agent-led software. What does that actually mean? Is that you have to install only in one particular machine, and that particular machine should have the connectivity configuration set up with all the machines where it has to deploy, and you are good to go. So that is that is the power of Ansible. So it is an agent-led software. Install it in only one machine and monitor or configure hundreds of machines. So that's the basic idea. Like if you have 100 machines, you do not install all the Ansible software in all those machines. You just need to install Ansible in one machine which has connection to all the hundreds of machines, and it is agentless. And Ansible will actually make sure that whatever you want to configure, whatever you want to deploy, it automatically happens to all those 100 machines. So that's the power of Ansible. So that's why it is being used in everywhere, right? So now, like as Ansible is open source, you are always free to actually use it and learn about it. So um, it can be installed in a very easy way, and you are good to go. So it's as I already mentioned, it is agentless. We can discuss more about the power of Ansible. Okay. So if you're following right, So these points are pretty straightforward, right? You can understand it. So here, like you can say that the Ansible, you can see the code of Ansible, it was completely built in Python. So basically, you need to have Python installed to use Ansible. So you can infer for that, right? So you have to install Python 3. We have already had a we had a topic on Python, right? So you should be a good, you should be good in Python, how to use Python. So basically, you can see that Ansible is a Python, basically, basically Python-based software. So you should install Python 3 and pip and few softwares belonging to Python, and then install the Ansible. So Ansible actually works on Python. Um, the other important point is like Ansible uses SSH. So everything happens through SSH. The basic idea of SSH basically is like you have hundreds of machines, and all you need to do is you should be able to connect to all these 100 machines using SSH silently. So if you configure in such a way that your Ansible machine is able to connect to all the 100 machines via SSH silently, then you can automate the deployment and configuration process by writing a simple script. So basically, Ansible something they call it as playbook. So you can write a simple playbook, and it is as simple as writing a simple playbook, which is basically written in YAML format, and that YAML, you can run that YAML formatted Ansible playbook and run it on multiple machines. We'll go through that how is the architecture of Ansible and how it enables us empowers us to actually run a particular YAML, which we actually call it as a playbook to run on any number of machines. So we'll go through it. So to enable it, right? So uh, we have to understand how the Ansible actually works. So by this particular slide, I will show you that slide. So we will be covering them. So we have Ansible, something has called Haddock commands, Ansible playbook, what are Ansible modules, what is Ansible roles, Ansible's vaults. So these are all we will actually discuss. So basically this is the main concepts of Ansible. Most of the concepts are covered by these headlines. So just try to understand these bulleted lines. And once we know each and everything practically one by one, then we are good. We are good to say that we know Ansible in and out of Ansible. Okay. So this one is very important. Just go through the I would actually recommend you to see go through these slides once at least, and try to understand the main headings at least. Like we are going to cover in the upcoming sessions, we are going to cover each and every topic one by one, and try to so while we cover these topics one by one, we will get an idea of how the Ansible is actually how Ansible empowers us to actually configure and install softwares in different machines using um, these features. Okay. Okay. So yeah. So a lot of theory. I'm sure like you will be following the theories more better when we actually run the implementations of Ansible. But just keep in mind that we keeping in mind all these concepts. So at least like try to keep in mind that we are going to explain, we are going to discuss about these features of Ansible one by one. I'll try to cover them as much as possible. So each and every topic is very important. Inventory management concept is very important to understand. Ad hoc commands, playbook, configuration management roles. So all these topics are equivalently important, and none of them can be skipped. So we have a limited time to actually explain each and every topics. We have limited number of sessions. So I will try to cover as much as possible regarding the Ansible. Okay. So we are going to discuss. So ideally, like at the end of the day, we should be able to cover all these things. So once we cover all these things, then we are expert in Ansible. We can say that we are expert in Ansible. So try to at least understand at a higher level what exactly are these actually. Okay. So we will quickly go through each and everything now. Ansible playbook I already introduced. So playbook is basically a simple YML. Okay, simple YML. What is YML now? If you ask me what is YML, so that's another topic again. Okay, so YML is a specific kind of XML. No, it's not XML. It's a typical formatted file with indentation as a very strict rule. So you can actually search if you have time. You can actually search for what YML is. So it's a simple file which specific where indentation it follows a specific indentation to explain and to describe what the tasks to be performed. Okay, so Ansible has a specific YML format which is called YML format, and the the YML used in Ansible is called playbook. Okay, so ad hoc commands also we are going to cover ad hoc commands. So ad hoc commands are like a single line commands in Ansible. We can just run a single script, and that particular script can be run on a set of machines, hundreds of machines at one go. So if you want to run, so for example, if you want to copy a particular file from your machine to hundreds of machines, so you can just run it using Ansible ad hoc command, simple ad hoc command. Using the ad hoc command, you can actually run in hundreds of machines by a single command. So that's the power of Ansible. So it's very important to understand Ansible ad hoc commands. So once you understand how the Ansible works in terms of ad hoc commands, then you can imagine that set of ad hoc commands can be grouped together. Set of ad hoc commands can be grouped together to form a playbook. So that's the basic concept of playbook. You can do it that way. So once you understand, once we do ad hoc commands, once we make the ad hoc commands working, we can say that you can actually write a playbook as well. So playbook is nothing but group all ad hoc commands grouped into one particular YML. So that is playbook. Okay. So inventory management, we'll also cover inventory management. What is inventory management in Ansible? So basically, inventory management in Ansible is like a, a planned way of grouping a set of machines. So you can actually group production machines in one group, you can group developer machines in one group, and so on, right? Or you can actually group according to the region, like all the machines belonging to one region, you can group in one way. And the region, so US East machines can be grouped in under one group, like so inventory management is all about that. Like, so you have a complex set of machines, lot of machines, and you should be able to have a proper way of grouping all the machines so that you can logically divide them, and based upon the logical grouping, you can perform the tasks, Ansible specific tasks in those group of machines. Suppose in a database machines, you want to group all the database machines. It makes sense for you to actually install only database specific tools, database specific softwares in database machines only, and front end specific machines, for example, React applications. So you want to deploy, you want to install React specific software only in React machines. So that's the way you actually arrange all the machines is called inventory management. So that is inventory management for you. So we will go through each and every steps. Configuration management is another thing, another concept in Ansible. So basically, how are you going to actually how are you going to actually say where the host files, where the inventory management files are there, how many oh, so like where you get the basic configuration information of your Ansible command, whether your configuration is there in your current directory or whether it is there in your machine level directory, where it is there. So all these things actually comes under configuration management. We look into that. And roles, we'll also discuss about roles. We will actually come across something called open source Ansible Galaxy. So we'll come across Galaxy, which is the ecosystem actually built by Ansible, and where actually people who have done lot of research and done created a set of already runnable set of playbooks, play commands that they can run. They have actually stored in one particular place. One thing you can say that Ansible Galaxy is a GitHub for Ansible. So like you have different repositories, public repositories, private repositories in your GitHub, right? Similarly, you can have all your roles in Ansible specific GitHub, which is called Ansible Galaxy. We'll go through that in the next upcoming session. So this is all that we are going to discuss as a part of Ansible in the next upcoming session. Okay. Yeah. So we need to learn few terminologies. We need to learn few terminologies about Ansible. So what are Ansible playbooks? What are tasks? What are action? What is an action? What is a fact? How do you gather facts? What are hosts? When it comes to inventory management, there comes hosts. How do you group? This also comes under inventory management. And in the playbook, we can actually use something called handlers. What is head of commands? We already have discussed what is head of commands. So we'll go through that one by one. So just keep in mind. So these are the important terms. These are the important concepts that we need to keep in mind. And once we have this all in mind, we'll go deeper and deeper and explain one by one in the upcoming sessions. Okay. Okay. So next session we'll start with Ansible. Probably we'll actually also cover the missing things that we have, which have missed of running a GitHub specific project in Jenkins. We'll cover that. And also I remember the question from Prerna, how to install a Blue Ocean plugin, right? So that we couldn't cover now. So it's all about installing. We will have a quick discussion about how we can actually install a Blue Ocean plugin in Jenkins and how we can create a pipeline project using Blue Ocean specific plugin. Using the plugin, how the UI changes. You remember, right? You remember the normal dashboard of Jenkins, how it looks. That everything will change drastically once you install a Blue Ocean. So Prerna, next week we will actually discuss about Blue Ocean plugin also. We will install Blue Ocean plugin and make it working. Okay. So tomorrow, next week, we'll discuss about what we have left Jenkins, basically make a GitHub project running in Jenkins, first topic. And we will discuss about Blue Ocean. And the next topic, we'll actually discuss about what are the different features of Ansible. And we will dig deeper and deeper one by one about Ansible in the next session. Okay, so we are running out of time today. So we will end the session and we will start discussing about Ansible and Jenkins again in the next session. So have a great week. Thank you all.
Thanks, Anil.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Shankar.